بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
Am I audible? Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Walaikum Assalam. I can hear you.
Okay. So let's begin our session. Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on Introduction to Cyber Insurance. I'm Madiha Rubab, a chartered accountant, and I will be moderating your session today. In today's digital age, cyber threats have become one of the most pressing concerns for businesses across from data breaches to where attacks, the financial and reputational cost can be devastating, where cyber insurance has become not just an option, but now a necessity. So let's go through the session, and we must know that during the session, you'll be understanding the fundamentals of cyber insurance and the key coverage areas and policy structures, real world scenarios, risk assessment and underwriting considerations, current market trends and challenges, and topmost, the practical implementation of strategies. Before that, I would like to introduce our expert trainer for today, Mr. Farrukh Khan, a seasoned insurance professional with over 10 years of extensive experience in the insurance industry. Mr. Farrukh Khan brings exceptional expertise to today's discussion with his impressive credentials. He is holding an MBA in finance and PGD in insurance, certified by the Chartered Institute of UK, Insurance Institute of UK, and currently he is serving as a member of IAP's Property Committee for 2024 and 26. His professional journey includes senior leadership roles at Jubilee General Insurance Company, where he served as deputy head of underwriting, head of risk management, and AVP operations and ADR, alternate distributions. Yes. His expertise span across business operations, risk management, digital insurance, transformation, and data-driven decision making. Wow, it's amazing, Mr. Khan. Anyways, just quick housekeeping notes. Please keep your microphones muted during the presentation, and kindly type in your queries in the chat box. And this session is being recorded and will be shared with all the participants. We encourage active and healthy participation during the interactive session. Now, thank you, Mr. Khan. Over to you. Thank you, sir. Please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madiha, for such a nice introduction. Allow me to share the presentation with the audience.
Yes, please.
So please let me know if the slides are visible to you.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, just a second. I need to stop the share. So to maintain connectivity, can I turn off my camera so that
Yes, please, you can.
okay, so there you go. So is this screen visible?
Not yet, sir.
Okay, just a second. Need to add a slideshow. Is it now?
Not yet. Previously it was. Now it's visible. It's visible, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir. It is very much visible. You can
Okay,
carry on.
sorry for the interruption. Maybe there was an issue. So, my name is Farrukh Khan. I've been in this industry for more than 10 years, and cyber insurance has been my prime area of focus for past 2 years. As everybody knows that cyber risks are evolving, and previously, if you go back 5 years or 6 years back, industry there was no concept of cyber attacks predominantly, and at the same time there was no insurance coverage catering to the requirement of cyber events. So since the risk has evolved over a period, so is the responsibility of the insurance companies across the globe to come up with a product which cater to any unforeseen incident which an enterprise can encounter in case if there is a cyber attack. So we'll try to build up a concept, a basic concept for the understanding of a layman who is not that much familiar with the insurance and that too the cyber insurance. So there was a statement by the former FBI director back in 2012, and it is now being proven as the right statement being said then. And it was like there are only two types of companies: those that have been hacked and those that will be. So we all know that the risk is evident and the risk is before us, and it is only the matter of time that how you are going to encounter any potential cyber attack, be this in your individual capacity or this would be in the capacity of the organization with which you are working. But the risk is there and it is evolving very much. There are multiple attacks happening at every second. There are multiple attempts to breach security of any organization. The cyber attacks, they do happen every now and then. And it's the matter of cyber hygiene of your organization, that how they have safeguarded themselves to restrict any potential breach which may come to your organization system. So just to build a perspective, you can see this image. I believe that most of you must be familiar. This is called as the eye of the cyclone. So from the historic point of view, this is the eye of the cyclone Katrina, which hit USA back in 2005. So just to give a perspective, that what had happened when that cyclone Katrina hit the state of US. So the potential loss in terms of monetary, the economic value of the loss which hit, which was due to this due to this cyclone Katrina, it was around $125 billion back in 2005. If we convert this to the current valuation, it goes up to $194 billion. So, in terms of these hurricanes and cyclones, which are considered to be the most adversely impacting natural disasters, the numbers from 1980 to 2025 February, there have been an economic loss of around $2.1 trillion through these natural disasters such as hurricane and cyclone. On the other side, we have a risk of cyber. But why I am showing this both in tandem and giving a perspective, just to give you an idea that it is an estimate that by 2025, cybercrime will cost the world around $10 trillion annually. and it is much more than what natural disasters combined have been in terms of losses for this world. So the overall economic losses that has resulted through a natural disaster from 1980 to February 2025 stand at around $2.1 trillion. But standalone in air, the cyber crime or the cyber incidents are expected to hit the economy to the extent of $10 trillion. So if you see this in the perspective of top economies of the world, USA has a economic value of $26 trillion. China has $19 trillion, and cyber incidents, they can become a third largest economy if they are to be considered as a part of any economy in terms of the monetary impact which they can do to this world. So what is cyber insurance? Just we'll try to keep the session in a simplest way as possible. And if there are any potential queries which you have, you can always put that in the chat box, and I will answer them at the end of this session. So the cyber insurance, you can easily understand if you have a gate protecting your entrance of your home, and if any burglar barges in, breaks your gate and comes to your home, then there will be a breach of access, which we all know that breach of access is known as. Similarly, in terms of cyber insurance, every organization has a cyber hygiene. There is a protection system installed in all your organization's IT system. And if someone tries to breach through that security measures which are implemented, if there is any breach which results in the overall compromise of the cyber hygiene or the cyber protection of an organization, that is termed as a cyber attack. So if there is any potential breach that comes into play, there is always a cyber insurance which indemnifies or protects any enterprise or organization against any financial loss which has resulted due to breach of security or a breach of their cyber hygiene. So as we move on to the later part of the presentations, we'll get into the details of that, what cyber insurance covers and what are the things which are not covered, and what are the protective measures which any enterprise should take, or per se from the perspective of an individual. At the end of the session, most of you would be able to learn more about how you are to maintain your cyber hygiene. As an individual, we do our personal hygiene, we do our physical hygiene, but there is always a cyber hygiene which we as an individual also need to take care of, because we are living in a digital world. We've been throughout the day connected through our mobile phones, through our laptops and multiple communication devices. So cyber hygiene is also an important aspect of our individuals' daily routine, apart from the organization. So most of you must have a brief a background of how insurance works, but cyber insurance is altogether a different ball game when we compare this to the traditional insurance product that we normally have from the insurance companies. Like, there is a fire and light perils insurance which covers our property against any potential fire. Then there's a terrorism insurance that, God forbid, if a terrorism incident happens, so and our property gets damaged, so we'll get indemnity through that terrorism insurance. So these are all the physical and tangible properties that against which we get traditional insurance covers from the insurance sector. But when we speak of cyber insurance, the whole infrastructure and the whole exercise and the whole commodity, you can say, is intangible. You cannot see it. You don't see data moving from your system to your company server, or to from your WhatsApp chat box to the WhatsApp's international server, but it's all happening behind and in an intangible manner, and in a manner which we cannot see. But at the same time, it is prone to attack or any potential breach. So just to give a quick view that how cyber insurance and traditional insurance differs from each other, as I've already told that in cyber, we are covering the digital risk predominantly, which are intangible risk. But in traditional insurance, the main traditional insurance like fire and terrorism, there is always a physical risk of property against which insurance is sought. Next, the assets covered. Again, we speak of tangible and intangible property. In cyber, we have two types of insurances. The one section which covers the first party losses and the other one covers the third party losses. We'll get into the details that what are the first party losses and third party liabilities. In traditional insurance, we have a insurance against our own property, but we at the same time we also take any insurance which protects us against from the lawsuit. The most common example is your motor vehicle which you drive on the road, and there is a mandatory insurance requirement for every vehicle to carry that insurance before bringing the vehicle to the road, and that is called a third party insurance. What it does is it, if God forbid, if there is an accident happening of your vehicle impacting any third party's property or per se damaging or giving a potential bodily injury to any third party. So if there is a legal claim that the affected party goes to the court of law, files a case against you, and the court sues you and penalize you with some amount that you must pay that amount to that third party affected due to accident of your vehicle. So that is covered under the third party liability policy. So the risk, in terms of the risk nature, see, we've been doing traditional insurances, fire and allied perils for past 100 and 150 years. So it has been the same. There are minor tweakings in the scope of coverages, but the basic cover has always remained the same when we talk of traditional insurances. From the perspective of cyber insurance, we can say that since the risk is evolving, there are new technologies coming in every now and then. So is the nature of the risk. The risk is also evolving, and the utmost challenge for the insurance sector to cope up with this evolving risk is to keep updating their insurance product, which caters to the cyber incidents. I'll give one example in later part of our presentation where the initial cyber insurance product had some exclusion, which in the later stages are now being covered under the policy since the risk has evolved. So, regulate in terms of regulatory impact, there are certain legal fines and penalties which are covered under cyber insurance. In traditional insurance, we do cover legal claims, but that are not due to the cyber laws. So the next part in cyber insurance we see is the incident response, and in traditional insurance there is an incident response, but not the same with, as we have under cyber insurance. See, if you are working in an organization and if potentially if there is a fire happening, so we all know that we have the fire extinguishers installed in our premises. We are being trained with the basic operational practice how to extinguish a fire if the potential fire happens. Then we have, in terms of risk prevention, we have the firefighting teams or the fire brigade system available in our locality. We can always make a call. So whenever a fire happens, we know how to respond to that fire, whether we do it internally or do it from the assistance of an outside party, which potentially is the fire brigade. So this is basically the incident response. If there is a potential fire, how we are to respond, we all know that. But in terms of cyber insurance, if there is a breach of security happening, so how is an individual or an organization has to respond to that? That incident response mechanism, which requires the expertise of the firms who have the extensive knowledge of cyber events, their impact. There are forensic teams who are capable to identify the reasons of potential breach happening. So in terms of incident response, there are specialized teams who are trained to respond to any potential cyber threat or potential or suspected cyber attack, and they know how to identify it, detect it, and how to prevent it from happening further. So this is a specialized incident response which a layman is not trained of, cannot be trained of, but there are certain specific individuals and organizations who are expert in this field. So this incident response is a key component in this cyber insurance because it also forms part of the insurance coverage that is given under cyber. In terms of business impact, if there is a fire incident happening, so you get an insurance from an insurance company. Then if there is a fire, you get your claim amount from the insurance company, and then you restore your physical assets which have been burnt due to fire. So as a result, it is an easier mechanism to get the claim from the insurance company and rebuild your premises which has been affected with fire. But in terms of cyber insurance, the business impact can be huge, owing to the reason that you never know whenever you are attacked with a your organization is being attacked through any cyber event, how you get the clearance from the forensic team that your whole system or infrastructure is now cleaned of the any potential cyber existence, and how you rerun your business, it is a time taking procedure. So we all know there are multiple cyber events and attacks and threats. From the perspective that we all face this individually in our daily lives, there is always a phishing attack, which means there is a deceptive email message which appears to be coming from a source which is not reliable. As the individual, we all encounter this through on our personal email IDs, whether it is a Gmail, Outlook, or Yahoo. So we have a phishing attack. It basically tempts you to click on certain links so that you are redirected to a potential page where the cyber attack is the potential, the people who are targeting you to have a breach of your own account security, they can gain access to the information. Then there is another form of attack which is called as man in the middle. Man in the middle, as the name says, if there is a correspondence, email exchange, or a message exchange happening between two individuals, either via email or through a WhatsApp or any online software. So what these potential cyber attackers do, they get into the middle of this conversation through means, and they what they do is they keep track of the email exchanges happening. And from the perspective of organization, this is quite common. What they do is this: if there is any potential transaction happening where one party through an email exchange is communicating the bank account details to the other parties to transfer any amount of funds. So what these middle guys do, the moment there is a potential query regarding the account details, bank account details is sought from one party, they give their own account details, and the other party, with the understanding that this is coming from a source with whom they have been in the email exchange, they, without doing any further verification, transfer funds, which ultimately goes to the accounts of these potential cyber attackers. So then there is another form of a system which is called as denial of service. We call it as a overloading of a system. What cyber attackers do, we all have a capacity. Either we are using our mobile phones or we are using any organization server. There is a capacity, specific bandwidth to deal a specific number of queries per second. So the what cyber attackers do, they spam with multiple queries to that the main server of any organization, and due to the overload, that server starts to malfunction, and they take that as an advantage to breach through the systems of any organization. Then the most common or recently experienced cyber attacks, which during the COVID days, most of the organizations in Pakistan have faced, is basically malware or ransomware. So what happens is the cyber attackers, they put a malicious software in your database or the storage server where your files are stored, and they encrypt your core working files. And what they do is they put up a note there seeking a specific amount of ransom against encryption of your data, and if you are willing to transfer that demanded amount of funds to their account, so they will decrypt that data and will release it back to you. So during the COVID days, when the whole world had started working from home, so what organizations did to keep their operations running, they started putting their core data to the cloud servers, which were easily accessible from any part of the world. So that data which was put on the cloud servers for the use of any organization's employees while working from home was severely hit by these malware attacks. And the organizations which have taken certain protective measures, they were only able to continue working on the data. They had certain disaster recovery plans. They had their certain backups which they restored, or else they would have to pay this ransomware to get their core data back from these potential cyber attackers. So then there is an structure language query which is injected. What it does is, if there is any potential loophole in your system security, so they take advantage of that and penetrate to the system. Then there are zero-day exploits. That it also looks after the vulnerabilities of a system before any developer of the organization address those Then there are cross-site scripting. If you go to any website, you always see there are multiple ads from different website sources popping up. So the attackers do use those scripts as well. Then there is DNS spoofing. DNS spoofing is like if an email is coming from a certain abc@xyz.com, what they do, they smartly rearrange one or two characters of the email so that by the first view of it, you won't be able to realize that it is coming from a different domain name rather than xyz.com. So that is called a DNS spoofing. They fake the identity and then try to mislead you to do a financial transaction against which they can take any monetary benefit. Then there are credential stuffing. There's a very common mistake which we individuals do. We try to keep a single password and make it applicable to our multiple accounts, be it our bank accounts and or the other email accounts that we use. So that's credential stuffing. If a attacker is able to catch hold of your one password, so there's a probability that he will be able to use the same password on multiple access credentials of different applications that you use. So this is the one common mistake which we as an individual do frequently. Then there are insider threats. We all know that there is always an insider providing information to the outside parties. It obviously impacts you in terms of the physical hazards of the risk. And when we speak of the cyber attacks, there is no exception. So there are people who know your system. They share information with the outside parties so that that information can be taken to the advantage of any potential cyber attacker who can penetrate through any organization's system. Then there are advanced persistent threats. The attackers, they breach through your system, they reside there, they suspect the activity, and after some period of time, they start to affect the core functionality of the system so that it remains in your system for quite some time. Then there are business email compromise. It is more or less likely the DNS is spoofing that the attackers impersonate as the executive or any trusted partner and try to take advantage of their fake position to have a financial benefit from any person of the organization or an individual. So these were basically the core cyber attacks. Since we have 50 minutes of this session, I'm trying to touch upon the every aspect, and I'm sure this presentation will be shared with all the participants so that they can read this too to have a more understanding on the subject. So when we were discussing the comparison between the cyber insurance and traditional insurance, I had said that in the later part of the presentation, we'll get into the detail that what cyber insurance covers, what type of events are covered in the cyber insurance. So initially, while detailing on the definition of cyber insurance, I use that word of breach of security or breach of access. So in cyber insurance, the main event that is covered is data breach. How data breach happens? When a potential attacker breaches through the system security of an organization. So that event is called as a breach of access, which results in the breach of data. Means when someone is into your house while after breaking the gate, he has access to every room of the house. Same goes with the cyber environment. If there is a breach of security, then the attackers have access to the core data which is stored in your organization system. So just in case if a data breach happens, so what is covered under the cyber insurance, there are two aspects to it. The one which is associated with the first party, and there are potentially third party impact as well, third party liability impact as well, which is also covered. So initially, when I was giving the example of an office premises where you are working, and if a potential fire happens, your first response will be to pull out this fire extinguisher and start extinguishing the fire on your own self prior to calling in the fire brigade. So that is called the emergency response or the incident response. So that immediate response cost, which any organization, when there is a data breach, they have to do an emergency response measures to further stop the penetration of a potential cyber attack. So those response costs, be it in terms of hiring of any potential consultant or the forensic expert or the incident response expert, that response cost is covered under this first party losses. Then there is an event management cost. If an event of breach has happened and it has been there for quite some time, irrespective of the number of days, the emergency response cost cover the costs which are incurred in the first 72 hours of the incident. Whereas the event management cost covers the same cost, but there is no limit as to the time frame. It can go up to a period of 1 month, as 1 month, or it may end up within 72 hours. So whatever the cost that you incur to stop that breach further and to mitigate the potential impact of any data breach, those costs are covered under this first party emergency response cost and event management cost. Then there are organizations who have to make a public information, make any potential data breach event as part of their responsibility to notify the general public, so that notification, be it given through any electronic media or a print media, that notification cost is also covered in that. Then if there is a breach has happened, then there are certain monetary measures which organizations take. For example, if there is a data breach, so there are institutions or the service providers who digitally monitor the data movement across multiple platforms which are dealt online, and they do monitor if there is any data which has been stolen from the organization or being sold on the dark web. The dark web is basically the medium where the data is basically sold. So this is something which monitoring cost, those institutions and those service providers charge you for that monitoring cost. That monitoring cost is also covered. Then there is a recovery cost. If you are to recover any data from any potential source, that recovery cost is also covered. Then there is a breaking cost. Breaking cost is something if there is a potential cyber attack which has hampered your hardware system or software system in a manner so that you are not able to reuse them in your code network segmentation. So that breaking cost cover the cost of replacement of any hardware or software in case it is not usable subsequent to any cyber attack. But if there are forensic experts who gives you a go ahead to hello. Hello.
Hello. You are audible and we can see your slides as well.
Okay.
Please
Okay.
continue.
Okay. Sorry, there's a power breakdown in my premises, so I was trying to connect the hotspot. I believe it is by default connected. So let's continue further with this presentation. So that breaking cost is also covered. Further to that, if we speak of this third-party liability, so if there is a data breach, for example, let's take an example of a bank where the customer's personal data is stored, their credentials are stored, and if there is any breach, so there may be an incident where a customer can put up a legal suit against you, claiming that you were the custodian of my core data, and since there is a breach of security on your system, as a result, I'm putting a legal suit, I'm filing a legal suit against you that you are liable to pay me X amount of money. So that third party damages claim is also covered. Then whenever there is a legal suit happening, so any organization will have to hire any lawyer or their specific legal team to look after those hearings and the legal suits which are brought forward against them. So that defense cost is also covered. Um, if there is any investigation as to the extent of legal liability suit which is filed against you, if there is any investigation cost that organization has to bear, that investigation cost is also covered. And there are certain regulators who impose, in Pakistan, it's not a common practice, but in terms of AML or CFT, there is a regulation where we see the State Bank to be imposing fines and penalties over the bank. So if going forward, if there is a regulation that the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, that is used internationally, so in that case, if a regulator or a state bank files fines any bank that you were supposed to take good care of the customer's data, and since there is a breach, so you are being fined of this amount as a result of the breach. So if there is a fine or penalties coming from any state bank or any regulator, that those fines and penalties are also covered in these third party losses. So the idea to get into detail of this first part is predominantly these are the costs which are covered as a result of different events that may happen. Number one is event that we've already spoke of is the data breach. Then there is a cyber attack. Cyber attack where there is a data breach, but the cyber attackers are there to make your hardware core system faulty. Then there is an human error. Human error example that initially that I was saying that since the risks have evolved, the cyber insurance product has also evolved. Initially, the cyber insurance product that we had to offer in the market, it was not covering the human error. But there is always an element of error when there are people looking after the overall cyber hygiene of an organization. So the markets have evolved, have modified their product.
I appreciate your patience. It seems that our presenter has some unexpected power breakdown. So kindly bear with us and stay with us. He's trying to reconnect. In the meantime, you have any questions, I will love to hear from you, or you can write in chat box your thoughts about so far the presentation is. If you have any questions, kindly type in the chat box so that we don't waste our time. Our presenter is trying to reconnect.
Hello. 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 Madiha, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm having a disconnection of power. Okay, okay. So basically, we've spoken of human error, then there are ensured system disruption. This is an important element which hampers the business income of any enterprise. See if an organization is running on their core IT system and if there is a breach of security, the first
Sir, your voice is scrambling. Farrukh sir, can you hear me? We all can't hear him. His voice is scrambling, probably some issues at his side with the network. In the meantime, you can share your questions. We have, in fact, 3 very good questions from Kaleem Saab and Javed Hashmi Saab and what else? Jawad Hashmi Saab. And I'll encourage rest of the people to kindly share your questions, your queries, your concerns. Am I audible to everyone? Another good question by Mr. Farhan Nehder. Yes. We'll ask once our presenter will be online. In fact, I have got a good question over here in my mind. Okay, Nasir, thank you for your question. You're serving as CTO in State Life. Good to hear from you. Yes, Umar Saab, good to hear from you as well. Well, I'm not a practitioner and I don't have expertise in it, so I can't discuss it afterwards. But my job is to learn from it. Yeah, it's a good presentation. Then we have Sayyidat Ifraza, who is graduate trainee officer in Bank Islami. Yes, Muhammad Salman is here. Okay, I was thinking about one question. Let me share with you people. My question is that like we have bigger frauds and bigger cybersecurity breach and cybersecurity threats and cybersecurity incidents. Then in that case, how do
Hello. Hello.
Mr. Farrukh has joined again? Welcome back, sir. You're audible, sir.
I'm extremely sorry. There is an unexpected interruption in the power. I'm using my data as well, but I seem to have a problem with that. I'm extremely sorry for that. So can I
No worries.
proceed further with this session? I'll take 5 or 10 minutes more.
Sure, sir. Carry
Okay.
on.
So
There are numerous
yeah.
questions for you.
Yeah, I'll try to wrap up the core coverage part as well, but I would appreciate if you can share this slide with the overall participants. I can share my email as well if there are certain queries which we are not able to answer in this session. I'll always remain open to respond to them over an email or a written communication. So basically,
That's
we've
wonderful.
talked of the coverages. So there are certain general exclusions which we should know. See, the bodily injury and property damage, it is covered under traditional insurances. So, since cyber looks after the intangible assets or intangible properties mainly, therefore, any bodily injury and property damage is not covered. Apart, if there is any potential cyber attack which hampers your hardware or software system in a way that they are not reusable, only that component of property is covered. Then, if there is any fraudulent and malicious acts that are not covered in this policy, if there is any government mandated shutdowns, see which happened in back in the COVID days, and as a result of that, there is any loss of income that is not covered. Physical events are not covered from the perspective of the bank. It is a very common question that if there is a cyber attack in our system and if there is a customer's account maintained with us, and if the funds of the customer are being stolen from that account, so will that be covered? So we as an insurance people, we always try to educate our banking customers that from the perspective of the bank, that theft of funds is not covered in terms of the amount. But obviously, since you were the custodian of those funds of any client, so if a client goes to the court of law claiming that the bank has to take good care of my money, and since there is a breach of security in bank system as a result of which the my funds are stolen, so if a court gives any judgment against the bank to indemnify those funds to the customer, that is covered under this policy. So then war or cyber operations are excluded in this. If there is any betterment cost which the bank thinks they bank or any organization thinks that they should get from the insurance company against cyber, that is not covered. A natural infrastructure failure is not covered, but if there is an infrastructure failure as a result of cyber attack, that is covered. But that too to the extent of the breaking cost that we have discussed earlier. So if there is any undersized security is there are certain parameters which IT guys know that if there is a potential vulnerability, they scale it in, they try to gauge the impact of that potential vulnerability on a scale of 1 to 10. So the higher the rating comes, that would be a core item for them to do a security patch so that their core system is protected from that potential vulnerability. If there is the criminal reward fund is not covered here, loss prevention services are not covered, but the incident response charges which a client faces as a result of cyber attack, those are covered under the policy. So, Madiha, we are predominantly done with this, the basics of cyber insurance. The other items are for the general understanding of the public. I've given certain examples that what CVSS is, what are the other things. The audience can run through it. If need be, we can do a second session to get into more detail, and I would recommend it to be a detailed session. I suggest we should wrap up our that discussion. We should open the floor for the questions and try answering them.
Yes, sir. I also appreciate this thing, and the number of questions that I'm seeing on chat box is really very encouraging. So, can you see the chat box for questions, or do I share for you?
No, yes, I can see. Since I've just have a second log on to the session.
Okay, so
Can you
I'll share
assist
the
me in?
questions for you.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So, first question is from Mr. Ghazanfar Naqvi. He is serving as AVP manager in National Bank. So his
Okay.
question is, as it is very important to protect from cyber attack, government should bound to all sectors or institutions to follow. Kindly share your insights on it.
Sir, we as from the perspective of insurance company, you are speaking of the cyber insurance. I'll give you a one classic example. We all have a car with us, and do you see if there is any mandate being given by the government that to make it mandatory for every car to have an insurance while coming to the road? So same is the case in terms of cyber insurance. The State Bank, if I see from the perspective of the banking sector, the State Bank has time and again recommended to the banks to at least maintain a cyber insurance coverage. From the aspect of the insurance sector or the other sector, the SECP has been there to forcing the companies to maintain a proper cyber hygiene and have a adequate cyber protection. But in our unfortunately in the country where we are operating, there are recommendations, but there is no enforceability to make things implemented in a manner which the regulator or any organization or a government wants it to be. So the need is there. Cyber is basically a risk which has just evolved. In terms of property, there are multiple properties being built every now and then in this country, and there are building codes against them, but there is no urgency or making it mandatory by the government to have an appropriate insurance even while you are constructing a building. So and this is the major reason that in the region in which we are operating, the penetration of insurance is quite low. It is less than 1%.
Okay. So then we have another question. In fact, there is a list of questions for you, and it's a very good session. Okay, then Mr. Humayun Raza from Bengal Habib, he has mentioned that first party error was not covered and third party liability is covered in your presentation.
No. I believe there was some interruption in the session. This is the reason why the first party losses are also covered and third party losses are also covered. To make it easier for the understanding of the audience, I have tried to break down the coverages in terms of what is covered for the first party and what is covered for the third party. From the first party perspective, as I had initially mentioned, if there is a potential cyber attack happening, so the first party, the organization which is being impacted by any potential cyber event, they have to incur certain costs to mitigate the penetration of the cyber attack. So that cost is a first party cost which the organization has to itself bear. So that first party cost is covered, and as a result of a breach, if there is a third party coming or claiming in or filing a legal suit against you that you were the custodian of my data, and as a result of cyber attack that data is stolen, now you owe me the X amount of money as a result of my claim that my data is stolen from your system, that third party cost is also covered.
Okay. So next question is from Mr. Jawad Hashmi. His question is very much valid. He's asking that what policies are available in Pakistan for businesses to get protection from such catastrophic events. Secondly, he said your presentation is quite useful, but his core interest is in how do we get the cover for such kind of risk.
Okay. From the catastrophic point of view, the world has not seen that much of an event which is termed as a cyber catastrophe event. So the product that the reinsurers worldwide are offering is the cyber insurance product catering to the individual needs of any organization against a cyber attack. From the catastrophic point of view, if you see what catastrophic cyber insurance should cover, ideally, that if there is an attack impacting multiple sectors or multiple companies within the same sector of any country, and thus hampering that overall functionality of that specific industry or the sector, so that would be termed as a catastrophic cyber event. But unfortunately, the potential is there of such attacks happening is there, but the reinsurance market is currently now not ready to deal with these such a huge catastrophic cyber attacks, since their quantum would be very much higher. And in the initial part of my presentation, I've given a perspective that the world itself is prone to almost a $10 trillion monetary losses because of cyber attacks, and the natural catastrophe has thus far only impacted in 40 years around $2.1 trillion. So unfortunately, that catastrophic product is not available, but individual product catering to any potential event for us against any single enterprise that product is there. But your point is quite valid. It should be there.
Okay, sir. Then we have Noman Saab from Finca. He is appreciating our session. Okay, and Jawad Hashmi Saab is very thankful for your response. And we have participants from global participants, in fact. So one of our participants, Mr. Charles, he has mentioned that could you please share your email with us for future consultation?
Okay, I'm open for that since we've had two interruptions in the session and obviously the presentation is quite long. We would have required 2 hours to complete it, but since we are running short of time, I'm sharing my email address with your coordinator, and he can share with the audience or mention this in this presentation so that if there is any query regarding to any section of my presentation, any audience person in the audience can put up an email to me and I'll respond to that.
Sir, I'll appreciate if you can share it over here in the group chat.
Yeah, I'm
So it will be much
typing it.
convenient for that.
Yeah, I'm just doing it.
Okay. And then we have another participant from abroad. He has how long we can think to have great protection, how long it will take. Probably, let me rephrase it. How long it will take, we can think to have great protection for such cyber attacks, since these are being developed time by time. Or we have to initially face the issue and then we find the solution, which of course would be costly and time consuming.
So far the product has evolved in a manner that it is covering the human error as well. But the advancement of technology is beyond our control, and we don't know what is coming our way in terms of technological use that we are going to make our lives convenient while doing that. Giving you an example, ChatGPT wasn't there, but now since the advent of ChatGPT, we all tend to have assistance from ChatGPT every now and then. So we've been sharing our data with ChatGPT, but God forbid if a potential attacker builds up an interface which replicates what ChatGPT does, we don't know who is behind that ChatGPT URL. So if there is someone who can mimic that ChatGPT interface and seeks our personal information and then uses it for to his advantage, so obviously it is a risk which is currently not there. We suspect it to be there, but once we have the insurance sector is reactive to this approach. I won't say that this is proactive since we don't know what are the cyber risks coming in, but the insurance company is reactive, and whenever there is a need for any events which are happening in multiple frequencies, the insurance sector comes up with a solution to that in terms of the insurance coverage in this product.
Wonderful. Thank you for your response, sir. Then we have another question from Mr. Salman Khan. That is, what are the limits of insurance for each coverage?
Okay, good question. From the Pakistani
Are
market
these
perspective,
separate, shared, or aggregate?
yeah, I'm coming to that. Since the Pakistani market hasn't been much active on the cyber insurance, and there are a few banks who have taken cyber insurance thus far, and other than the banking sector, there are two or three healthcare facilities who have taken cyber. So from the perspective of a reinsurers, see, this is a specialized product which insurance companies do offer in the market, but they also take a reinsurance from the international market. So the product which is currently being circulated in this market is backed by the insurance reinsurers who are based in London. So from the perspective of the banking sector, I've seen a $5 million maximum aggregate limit which is being offered to the banking sector in Pakistan, and that aggregate limit of $5 million, it operates in aggregate, but for these all the events, if whether it is that aggregate limit, it is either offered on 100% basis for all the events or all the incidents, or it is offered to the extent of 50%. For example, if there is an aggregate limit of $5 million and there is a coverage in this cyber product which gives protection against ransomware, to whom we say that e-threat cost. So there is a possibility that if there's a aggregate limit of $5 million, then that ETH rate cost, the limit of ETH rate cost would be $2.5 million, or maybe it can be $5 million. But I haven't seen any offering in the market which is having an aggregate limit beyond $5 million.
Okay, then we have another question apart from appreciations from our participants. We have another question. This one is for you. Just let me go through it. Okay. How much practical is this cyber security coverage, and is it applicable in Pakistan? We
Yeah,
have
yeah.
Humayun Raza question.
Yeah, it is applicable in Pakistan and it is practical. See, I'm giving you just a brief example. If we let go of this cyber at this point in time, consider yourself to be an organization who are looking after all the precautionary measures to protect itself against any potential fire. How we are going to see that? If I walk into the office and I see there are fire extinguishers, there are smoke detectors, there are people who know how to extinguish fire. So I would say that that organization is having their own mechanism of internal control to respond to any potential fire incident. So this is the response of the organization towards any potential impact while going for the insurance. Similar is the case with the cyber. When we go to offer any cyber insurance to any organization, we ask them about the cyber hygiene which they are maintaining in their infrastructure. If an organization is not deploying any internal control mechanism, any cyber prevention tools in their systems, and if they are going to ask us for the insurance from the perspective of the insurance company, I may not be able to offer them the product. But if there is an organization who has itself deployed multiple prevention or security measures in their cyber hygiene environment, and if they are willing to have a cyber insurance cover, then I'll be more than willing to offer them the insurance in contrast to an organization which has a zero control. See, the insurance always being is offered in the good faith that the customer will try to act in a manner as if he or as if the customer is uninsured. So your approach towards your own premises, your own physical risk, or your own cyber hygiene is more concerning for the insurance sector prior to offering any cyber insurance. It gives an element of responsibility which you take on your head, and God forbid, even after all those precautionary measures, if something odd happens and a breach happens, or if a fire happens, then insurance company is obviously there to indemnify you against the loss. Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You are audible. Please continue.
Yeah, I'm done with the response.
Okay, wonderful. Sir, I have just one question. Again and again, the word cyber hygiene has been, iterated. Can you please elaborate in very simple words for a layman like me that what is cyber hygiene?
Okay. Can I give an example of a home?
Yes.
Okay. To make it easier for you. See, we built a home. We try to build
Yeah.
walls around our living space. What is the purpose of that? To restrict uh, easy access of anyone to our premises. Then we deploy a door at the entrance. Then we put one layer of lock in that door. Then we add another. There are two or three locks in the main entrance door of any house. So what we are doing is we are basically safeguarding our premises where we are living in. Now go to this cyber environment. See, I have a network of 10 systems in my organization, and there is a common server with which all 10 systems are connected. So if there is a person whose system is being used, if there is a breach of security in any one of the system, my whole infrastructure, my whole server will be at the stake. So in terms of this protection, what I'll do, I'll try to ensure that all the 10 systems which are in my network, I'll deploy the antivirus in them. That if there is anything happening, if there is a virus coming in, there has to be an alert which alerts me and that specific user that you need to take care of these measures, one, or else your system will be prone to this virus. Or there is a mechanism which is deployed. Now it is a technical term which we call as EDR. This is endpoint detection system. What this endpoint detection does is it is basically a fire alarm of any cyber environment, that if there is any breach or attempt of a breach of security happens, that endpoint detection system, what it does is it highlights or gives an alert to the IT administrator of that organization. And as a first recourse, that's what this system does is it ultimately, if it identifies that there is a breach of security happening and it is happening through a system number 9. If I have 10 systems in my overall framework, it is happening through system number 9. So what it does automatically is it disconnects that system number 9 from my core environment of core IT environment, so that if in case that system is eventually breached, it would not penetrate further to hamper the overall the other 9 systems on my main server of the organization.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have last question from Mr. Farhan Heather. How there are cyber losses assessed in case of the unfortunate event? And this is the
Yeah.
last question we have for you.
Okay. So again, give an example. If there is a fire happening in your premises, the insurance and your premises is insured with any insurance company, the insurance company appoints a surveyor which comes to your premises, inspects the overall impact of fire that has happened. Then that surveyor generates a report that these items were damaged, these were not damaged, these are recoverable, these are not recoverable, and it lists down the overall itemized values and gives a quantification of loss to the insurance company, that on the basis of my physical visit post a fire incident, this is the monetary loss that insured has suffered, and the insurance company pays that amount to the insured. In terms of cyber insurance, the most basic coverage part which is included in cyber insurance is the incident response vendor. These incident response vendor are basically the surveyors, but they have a technical expertise over this cyber security, cyber forensic, and cyber assessment. So that incident response vendor whose cost is covered in this cyber insurance, what they do is that whenever you suspect there is a possibility that there is a breach, the breach has not happened, but if you suspect that I am on the verge of a potential breach, you immediately notify that to that incident response vendor. That incident response vendor immediately aligns virtually with your core IT team and helps you mitigate the further penetration of that cyber breach. And even though if that breach has happened, then how much it has impacted your business in terms of the cost that you have incurred in response to that cyber attack, and in terms of the loss of income due to non-continuity of the business. So that incident response vendor, he is there to assist you in stopping a cyber attack, but he would also be there to make an assessment of the overall monetary loss that an organization bears as a result of a cyber attack. And on the basis of the findings of that incident response vendor, the insurance company pays the claim.
Okay, wonderful. Excellent response. Uh, I wish to thank you for your wonderful and insightful questions and to all the participants. And I can see the engagement and interest you have in today's topic, which really highlights the relevance of this topic in our current business environment. Now, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Farrukh for sharing his extensive knowledge and expertise with us today. I'm really very thankful to all our participants, including our participants from abroad. Thank you for your active engagement and your thoughtful questions. Your participation has really made this session truly interactive and enriching. Next, I would request you all that these slides will be shared with you. If you have shared at the time of registering yourself, if you have shared your email ID and your WhatsApp number, we encourage you to reach out to us and keep an eye out for our upcoming webinars on related topics. As we conclude today's session, I would like to emphasize that in our increasingly connected world, cyber insurance isn't just about financial protection. It's also a part of business continuity planning, reputation management, and topmost the peace of mind. Thank you again, Mr. Khan, for your expertise, and thank you to all the participants for joining us today.
Thank you
We
so
hope
much.
that
Thank
this
you, everyone.
session We hope that this session has provided you with valuable insights and have questioned your queries. Have a wonderful day ahead and stay safe. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.